Hello, and welcome to Terra Verde, a weekly environmental news show hosted by Earth Island Journal on KPFA and aired on KPFA and KPFB in Berkeley, KFCF in Fresno, and online worldwide at kpfa.org. I'm Maureen Nandini Mitra, the host and producer of today's show. As all our Bay Area listeners must be well aware, whale watching is a beloved activity around here. And ever since I moved here, one of my favorite things to do has been spending the day at the beach near Point Reyes or the Marine Headlands or Half Moon Bay, tide pooling and scanning the horizon for breaching whales. The fact that one can spot so many whale species, gray, humpback, blue, in their natural habitats all year round over here has never ceased to amaze and delight me. So over the past few months, I've been following news of a growing number of gray whale strandings up and down the Pacific coast with great concern. In May, the reported toll was around 46. Since then, the number has more than quadrupled to 187, according to the latest unpublished data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is 2026 one of the deadliest years for the species in recent history. Marine conservationists are calling this a catastrophic mortality event. And on Tuesday, 3 conservation groups, Oasis Earth, the International Marine Mammal Project, and the Center for Biological Diversity, sent the Trump administration an intent to sue notice for failing to protect the whales. To understand what is causing the spike in whale mortalities, what can be done to prevent it, I have conservation biologists from 2 of the 3 groups on Terra Verde today. I have Mark Palmer, Associate Director of the International Marine Mammal Project, or IMP, a Berkeley-based environmental group that works to protect dolphins, whales, and their ocean environment. And full disclosure, IMP is a project of Earth Island Institute, which publishes Earth Island Journal, where I'm the editor. And patching in from Anchorage, Alaska, is Rick Steiner, founder of Oasis Earth, a global consultancy that focuses on policy solutions to the environmental crisis. Rick, Mark, welcome to Terra Verde.
Thanks very much. Good morning.
Morning. Rick, perhaps we can start off with you. I understand this current intent to sue notice follows on the heels of a petition you had filed last year seeking to have the gray whale listed as an endangered species, and that went unanswered. Can you tell us a bit about what prompted that petition in the first place?
Sure. Thanks for attending to this issue. It's a very important one these days. Last year, this time, it was up from NOAA's own, that's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's own reporting that gray whales were in very serious trouble. Their population was down substantially from its high just 10 years ago. Uh, of greater concern, perhaps, is the calf production was the lowest it's ever been on the record. Usually there's 1,000 to maybe 1,500 calves born in a year in the Baja nursery lagoons. Last year there were 85 counted, the lowest ever, and that's been the case for the last 6 or 7 years. And then also there were a lot of dead gray whales washing up on beaches last year at this time as well. So that prompted that alone, the current status, plus also looking forward to the main driver of the gray whale decline, which is Arctic climate change and the reduced sea ice and the reduced prey resource availability. Projecting that forward over the rest of this century, obviously these whales, this population is in very serious trouble. So I petitioned that they be listed in August of 2025. The agency responded initially that yes, they received the petition. They were required by law to respond with an initial determination within 90 days, and they blew right past that deadline. And then they were required as well to respond with a final determination within 12 months, and that's what they passed earlier in the week.
Right, that deadline was August 24, if I understand correctly. So what you're saying is this is not a one-off event. These mortalities have been happening for a couple of years now. And then Also, I think you shared an analysis with me earlier where you calculated that the total mortality per year is actually much higher than what is being reported. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Very good point. Yeah, when we see whales stranded and dead on beaches, that's only a fraction of the total number that we estimate are being or dying offshore and sinking out of sight, not being reported. A general thumbnail estimate is about 10 to 1. So if you have 100 whales dead on beaches, you'd have 1,000 whales dying offshore. This year so far, we've had over, well, 187, as you reported, as NOAA has reported, dead on beaches. That would mean perhaps up to 2,000 or more have died offshore, unreported, unobserved. The whales that are beaching dead, many of them are emaciated, and so they don't have a lot of the fat layer, which makes them less buoyant offshore. So there might even be a greater percentage that are dying and sinking offshore than what are typically seeing. So at any rate, what's this is a spectacular mortality event, a catastrophic mortality event. NOAA had designated what they call an unusual mortality event from 2019 till 2023 because of the large number of strandings. They decided not to designate this particular event this year and last year as an unusual mortality event simply because they know the cause, and that's mainly Arctic climate change and loss of prey resource in the Arctic feeding areas. But
Right.
when you think about that, it's a bit of a concern that the agency no longer considers this unusual.
All right. We will come back to that. But as you're mentioning, a lot of the whales are showing up in an emaciated condition. Mark, maybe you could elaborate on like what exactly is happening to their prey base and why?
Well, what we think is happening is that as the Arctic warms, and we know that the Arctic areas, including Antarctica, are warming at a faster rate than other parts of the globe, we're losing sea ice at a very high rate. Now, sea ice is very critical to the overall productivity of the Arctic because when the sea ice melts, it has a lot of dust and other material in it, which pulses into the water as it melts, and you have a sudden nutrients along with the warming waters results in a uh, explosion of zooplankton and phytoplankton in the waters, and these in turns feed the bottom creatures, which is what the gray whales feed on. They're a bottom feeder looking at these little bugs that look like pill bugs. They're called amphipods. They live by the thousands in a square meter of mud, and the gray whales will scoop up the mud, push it out through their baleen plates, and retain the amphipods behind. So the amphipods apparently are declining in number because of the lack of nutrients that they're getting from the sea ice over time. It's simply not synced up with their regular process. And because of that, we're seeing a lot of these whales very skinny, emaciated. They're basically starving to death. In addition, we have other problems such as entanglement in fishing gear, and ship strikes are fairly common in areas along the California coast and other places. So we've got a variety of different problems that are occurring for these whales that we need to address in order to see if we can build the population back up.
Right. My understanding is so what you're saying is like when they are moving down the coast up from the Arctic down towards Mexico, they're already traveling with low food in their bellies and they're emaciated, and that is part of what's causing them to strand, right?
Essentially, yes. What we have is they spend their entire summer feeding, and then they don't eat very little on the rest of the migration, which goes down all the way along the coast of California and Canada into Baja lagoons where the births are given.
Right. And my other understanding is that along the California coast, it is the ship strikes that are the major cause of mortality for the whales. Would that be
Generally
accurate?
speaking, yeah, although a lot of them wash up dead with no indication of a ship strike. So there are, I would say, the majority of animals that come up probably don't have any signs of ship strikes, but a fair number of them are being struck by ships.
So why are gray whales in particular so impacted? I know there are other whales also that are dying from various causes, including ship strikes. I know the orcas are also having issues with access to food. But it seems like this year it is the gray whale species that is the most impacted. Could one of you answer to that?
Well, I think the loss for the orcas is because of salmon problems with salmon streams, which have
Right.
been dammed, and as a result, don't produce salmon anymore. The salmon can't get up the streams. So one of the things we need to do for and is actually happening in some cases is to remove dams in the Pacific Northwest in order to provide food for the orcas. It's not going to be quite so simple to deal with the problems in the Arctic of global warming. But clearly, one of the things we need to do as a species is address global warming. The United States is way behind other countries in doing that, and we really need to get back on course, which of course we can't do with our current administration. From the top down, they're pushing for oil drilling off the coast of California. They're pushing for reductions in protections for various whale species. So we've got our work cut out for us in terms of dealing with these people and dealing with the administration over gray whales.
Right. Well, Rick, maybe you can answer the question I was asking about, like, why is it specifically gray whales that are dying in such large numbers as opposed to other whale species?
Yeah, I think it's largely you're seeing the gray whales wash ashore dead more than other whales simply because they're a very coastal migrant. They migrate very close to shore. Other whales are dying as well. I mean, we had a fin whale hit by a cruise ship here a month ago in Alaska, and it was a pregnant female, a large pregnant female fin whale. And so both her and her fetus died from that ship strike. But certainly, the oceans and the planetary biosphere are in dramatic transition due to climate change, habitat damage, biodiversity loss, pollutants, the number of threats to gray whales, in addition to the primary threat, which of course is climate change and Arctic sea ice decline and Arctic Ocean ecosystem decline, include ship strikes, which we've mentioned, oil spills, entanglement, ocean noise, which has increased dramatically since World War II, microplastic pollution that they're ingesting, disturbance by whale watching tourism. That has to be managed more appropriately. Harvest over in Chukotka on the Russian side of the Bering Sea, there's a continual harvest of gray whales up to 100 and 140 a year. Contaminant pollutants, toxic persistent organic pollutants in the marine realm, disturbance in nursery lagoons in Baja, and harmful algal blooms. In addition, as Mark mentioned, the current administration's proposal for OCS, Outer Continental Shelf oil and gas development, leasing, as well as seabed mining proposals that have just been proposed by the administration are of great concern, and any of those would impact gray whale survival. So while they may have survived certain interglacial periods in the Pleistocene and earlier. Gray whales have been around for maybe 2 million years, and they have survived several climatic shifts in that period. They have never had the multiple stressors and threats that they face today, including all those we just mentioned. So, looking forward over this century, they are clearly in trouble, and the federal government has a statutory obligation to list them under the ESA, the Endangered Species Act, and then provide them the protections and the management protections that they can to give them the best chance of making it through this climate bottleneck this century. So we owe it to them, we owe it to ourselves.
That. This is Maureen, and you're tuned into Terra Verde, a weekly environment radio show co-hosted by Earth Island Journal on KPFA and KPFB in Berkeley, and KFCF in Fresno, and online at kpfa.org. If you're joining us just now, I'm speaking with Rick Steiner of Oasis Earth and Mark Palmer of the International Marine Mammal Project about the unusual spike in gray whale deaths along the Pacific coast this year, and their organization's intent to sue the Trump administration for its failure to address it. So coming back to the intent to sue, my understanding is that this means it's a 60-day notice, right, within which the administration has to respond to you on the suit?
Correct. We basically notified them that within 60 days we will file a lawsuit unless they take action on the listing and pay attention to the listing process, which they've ignored so far for the gray whale.
Right. And y'all talked a little bit about, what that listing it under the Endangered Species Act would offer it certain protections. But also listening, hearing this, the things that need to be done or addressed. And I'm wondering, in that context, how much protection do you think the ESA would offer the whales? And what do you hope to? Either of you can take this one.
Mark, I can chime in, and then I'd be curious to hear your response as well. This is Rick here in Anchorage. Certainly, the big issue is dealing with climate change globally. The ESA listing will probably do little for that, but what it will do is provide the federal agency responsible for gray whale conservation, NOAA, the tools with which to manage these other risks and threats to their survival. And that includes ship strikes and oil spills and entanglement and ocean noise and plastic pollutants and harassment by tourism votes and things like that. All of those need to be managed to give the whale population the best chance forward through this century. And let me just also say, my first posting with the University of Alaska science faculty 45 years ago was on the Chukchi Sea coast up in the Arctic in Northwest Alaska in an Inuit village called Kotzebue. And at that time, there was substantial sea ice. In the last 40 years, it has declined so dramatically that it would be unbelievable to those of us 40 years ago up along the Chukchi Sea and Arctic coastline of Alaska. This is a huge transition and habitat loss that most people don't get to see, but a lot of people know about from various media sources and such. And a lot of people know about polar bears being a poster child for climate change and the lack of sea ice, as well as the ice seals, the ribbon seals, ring seals, bearded seals, spotted seals, walrus. But nobody to date has associated the gray whale decline as another poster child for Arctic sea ice loss. And that's exactly what it is. It's as goes Arctic sea ice, so go gray whales. And I think they have a very, very difficult future ahead of them this century. So I think the law is clear. The government needs to do what it can to provide them the best chance making it through this bottleneck possible, and they need to act.
Going back in terms of the things that can be done, that there are some things that can be addressed immediately almost, I would think. And I've been following this for a while, so I just wanted to touch upon it, is the ship strikes, right? I believe there's another lawsuit in place by the Center for Biological Diversity against the U.S. Coast Guard, asking it to implement measures to protect whales from ship strikes. And one of that is to slow down the speed of the ships along the whale migratory pathways, and also to change the shipping lanes. Could one of you talk about that a little bit?
Well, Let me talk a little bit about what's going on in California because, of course, we have big
Sure.
ports in Long Beach and San Francisco. There is a heroic effort going on, which includes the federal government, the state government, a number of nonprofits like the California Marine Mammal Center, who are coordinating to identify where whales are and notify ships in the vicinity of those whales to avoid the whales, to slow their ships down. It's generally felt that if we slow ship traffic, and these are large container ships, etc., but also some of the smaller boats as well are a danger of ship strikes to the gray whales. If we slow them down to 10 knots, that seems to be slow enough to allow the whales to avoid the ships when the ships are coming in, and also gives the ships time to avoid the whales so that they're not traveling as fast as they normally would. So slowing down the ships is definitely a major source right now on the West Coast. Such speed limits are voluntary. So, and because of that, a number of shipping lines do not follow those guidelines, which is part of the problem why we're seeing ship strikes along the California coast of both gray whales and other whales as well.
Maureen, if I could add in there,
Of course.
a number of organizations, including two that I'm involved with, Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility and the Ocean Foundation, 3 years ago in 2023, filed a rulemaking petition with NOAA asking it to develop a nationwide protocol for reducing whale ship strikes, including mandatory speed reductions in designated whale ship traffic habitat. And that was I would note that's the Biden administration, and they completely ignored the petition. And here we are, 2 years into the Trump administration. It has completely ignored the petition. So we're considering litigation involved with that as well. So there are things that can be done to reduce that. And again, that is one risk to gray whales. You've got
Right.
oil spills and entanglement and ocean noise and other persistent pollutants and disturbance in the nursery lagoons. That was a big issue and off of Baja a couple of years ago with the proposed large seabed mining project proposed offshore of the gray whale nursery lagoons and salt extraction from the nursery lagoons and such, and tourism disturbance. So there's we need to specifically identify all the risks and threats to the gray whale population, list them, and then get the federal government to act and mitigate those and reduce those as much as possible. So,
Right. What I
And
was trying to, sorry, go on.
endangered species listing is going to open up more resources, more staffing, more ideal, so that we can work with the local groups that are doing such a good job of trying to avoid the ship strikes and entanglements and other sorts of things. There are disentanglement efforts going on as well when they see a gray whale or any whale really with netting or ropes around it, then are teams that will go out and try to disentangle them. All of these can be funded from the federal government, and endangered species listing will help that process, as well as putting it on the list. Obviously, gives a major boost to thinking about the plight of the animal and will help with public education on dealing with it.
Right. I was just trying to parse it out into sort of what are the immediate things that can be done that can help. And, the issues like climate change and plastic pollution and PFAS pollution, of course, these are much more longer term, which is why I was asking about the shipping lanes. But Well, Rick, as you said, the Biden administration didn't respond as much. And how much hope do you have that this particular administration will actually be compelled, can be prompted to take action, really?
yeah, that's this administration has been historic in its disregard for environmental rules and law in regard to the Constitution and democracy in general, but particularly with environmental rules and laws in the nation. It's eliminated a number of scientific programs, in particular climate science. It has gutted the federal agencies that are required, that are, empowered to observe the natural world and to manage and regulate and conserve the natural world. So it has done everything possible, this administration has, to undo 50 years of environmental progress. The first Trump administration listed, I think, 20 or 22 species on the ESA list. This Trump 2 administration has listed 0. And that compares to the Ronald Reagan administration, which listed, I think, 200 or 300 species, and the H.W. Bush administration, 300 or 400 species, the Clinton administration, 500 species. Trump 2 has listed 0. And further, it's gutted the impact and the tools with which agencies can apply the Endangered Species Act. So, we are very confident that the science within the agency, the scientists within the agency, who I've worked with in the past, are solid. And my guess is they've made a recommendation to NOAA leadership that this listing should go forward, but that has run into the ideological opposition within the administration to anything environmental. So that's why we're relying now on the courts. If the administration won't do it, then we will have to use the judiciary to resolve this.
To use the scientific term, this administration on environmental issues sucks. We
Yes.
need to certainly go forward with, as best we can, with the courts to try to rein them in. Obviously, with elections coming up, we're hopeful that things will improve.
Right. What can our listeners do to help in these efforts?
At some point, there will be a public comment period for the listing, assuming we win our case, and at which point we'll want the public to indicate their concerns for the gray whale to the federal government and the push for the final listing of the species.
Right. So, and nothing else before that.
Not really. It's always useful for people to contact their legislators, members of Congress, urging them to do something for the gray whales. People can do that immediately. And at some point, as I say, there will be a public comment period. But there's also any time that people can get in touch with their elected representatives on these kinds of issues is very valuable.
Right.
And as Mark mentioned, as the midterm elections are coming up, be sure that these environmental issues are front and center in your choice of who to vote for.
Right. Well, that's all we have time for on today's show. Thank you, Mark and Richard, really, for joining us today to help us understand more about why we're losing so many of our oceans, magnificent giants, and what we can do to help them. If you're in the Bay Area or living along the coast and you suspect you found a marine mammal in difficulty or a carcass, please report it immediately to the West Coast Marine Mammal Stranding Network hotline at 1-866-767-6144. You can learn more about the International Marine Mammal Project's work at imp.org. To learn about the many projects Richard is involved in, go to oasis-earth.com. Music for Terra Verde was produced by David Mitchell Reddy. Thanks to our sound engineer Kristen Thomas for helping with the show. You can find Terra Verde and other KPFA programs archived at kpfa.org. You can also find select episodes of Terra Verde on Earth Island Journal's podcast page.
Only you keep independent radio alive.
This is Cory Doctorow, author of many books, including Enshittification: Why Everything Suddenly Got Worse and What to Do About It. And you're listening to KPFA 94.1 FM, independent community-powered radio from Berkeley.
You're listening to the tiny but strong as an ox 94.1 KPFA in Berkeley, 89.3 KPFA in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, and online at kpfa.org.